Good morning, everyone, and yeah, welcome. Thanks for joining us on this lovely day. Today we're going to we've got one of our vendors, Entrust, coming to us with a webinar about zero trust architecture in the identity as a service. So Entrust is a new vendor for Blue Chip, a new relationship, but we're seeing some great things that are happening, and we want to share that with you so you guys can have that success. I'll run through who's going to chat today on the webinar and a bit of an agenda. So my name's Matt. I'm from Blue Chip. I look after the Entrust product line here, and we've got Nathan from Entrust, who's one of the technical sales executives, and he's a great asset to have. He's he's a technical person, but he's also part of the sales team, and his name just says it. But a great mind to have. So the agenda today will be we'll just run through an overview, a bit of a setting a sort of a foundation of what's out there, why we're having this discussion. We'll run through the identity as a service product. We'll look at some actual live case studies, which you can scale up and scale down, and you'll see that. And then we're going to go into a demo. I'm a big believer in some practical, some practical skills and practical evidence. So that's always good to have. We'll look at a bit of pricing, and then we've got a quiz, and then we've got our prizes as well. But everyone today, is part of our something we've been doing quite often is with everyone joining the webinar, the lunch you're having today will be on us. And since we can't have this meeting face to face and we can't meet in a room, it's great to be able to at least share a lunch virtually with you. Everyone's going to get a $25 Uber Eats gift voucher from GiftPay. So we'll send that out at the end of the session, and so stay in for the details on that. Yeah, without further ado, I'll hand over to Nathan to kick off.
Beautiful. Thanks, Matt, for the introduction. Lovely introduction at that one. As Matt mentioned, my name's Nathan from Entrust, and I'm the technical sales executive. I'm based out of Melbourne, do travel nationwide and across the Tasman as well, over to New Zealand as well, but when we can do that, we will. I'm just going to pop my webcam off to save bandwidth, and we'll continue. Okay, so a bit of an overview of Entrust and who we are, because a lot of people on the call might not know who we are. We're a global company with over 800 million USD in annual revenues. We've been around for 50 years plus, since 1969 as DataCard. So DataCard's all your physical issuance, and 25 years in the digital space. In the digital space, we protect 25 plus countries with our PKI solutions. 95 million plus protected workforce and consumer identity. So we have quite a large footprint globally, and not a lot of people notice about us, but in how big we are, we have a 95% plus market share in the physical identity space here in Australia. And as I mentioned, all the spoof agencies run our digital security platform. So I mentioned previously that we're a global leader, so that's in the payments, identity, and digital security. And we truly believe that security is our core business, so it's not just a value add-on. It's what we do, it's in our DNA. So everything in that blue section at the top is our physical issuance solutions, our physical solutions. But everything in the purple is what Blue Chip have access to resell through the channel. So our public key infrastructure, our Internet of Things, our digital certificates and sign-in, and of course our identity and access management. And we'll be focusing predominantly today on our identity and access management solution. So as I've mentioned, don't just take our word for it. Some of the global names and brands that we do have. However, don't be scared by, they're all big names. We do cater for the smaller customers as well. And that's where I'll go in a bit further detail today about our MSP partner program. that you guys can take up. So firstly, as Matt mentioned, let's set the scene a little bit and the foundation for today's webinar and talk about the current threat landscape. So as we're all well aware, we don't need to be told again, but we've been told a billion times, but 2020, it's been a turning point with COVID-19, not only impacting our lives, but also accelerating the digital transformation by approximately 5 years as per a report from Twilio. So just some of the digital transformation that were accelerated by COVID, cloud services, they shot through the roof, communications, file sharing, performing transactions. Physical mediums were, they become discarded. With everyone stuck at home, cloud services were the only solution. We relied heavily upon them. IoT, second most impacted area, healthcare equipment, IoT, surgical robots, insulin pumps, wearables, smartwatches, smart devices. We use them every day. They need to be protected. The other aspect is, of course, mobile. So smartphones, they're embedded into our everyday lives. Our mobility has increased tenfold. Yep, and that's there. And artificial intelligence as well. Data is everything in this world and as an enabler. But where does that lead us with challenges? So there's been a lack of visibility in the marketplace out there, and that lack of visibility comes from most enterprises. They would be either running a hybrid, cloud, on-premise, a bit of a mixture between the two. So we need that single pane of glass. The expanded attack surface, so not everyone's in the workforce 9 to 5. They're at home. You've got different IP addresses coming in, different protected personal devices and networks, and so forth. So we need to follow compliance. In the actual workforce itself, the IT security, there's a massive skill shortage. And they mentioned there was a report done by ISC, and they're saying that 75% of cybersecurity criminal professionals claim that the organization is impacted by this skills shortage. So one of the biggest attacks is against passwords, as we all know. With multiple types of attacks, risks relating to them, passwords are most definitely our weakest barrier. There's simple attacks like keylogger attacks, where a hacker records all the keystrokes to know your credentials. Password spraying is when they use a list of commonly used passwords to access user accounts. Credential stuffing, the attacker automates the logins for a large number of previously discovered credential pairs. In shoulder surfing, that's literally just spied upon to get a hold of the credentials, can be physical or can be virtual as well. Phishing is the one we all know and learn to love and hate. Type of social engineering attack, duping the user to input information. It can be email, instant message, text. There's multiple forms of phishing that we can do. We've got man-in-the-middle attacks, so an eavesdropper in the middle of us, and so forth. So there's many different attacks against password, and that leads us into why we should go passwordless. But why should we go passwordless? As I mentioned, passwords are the weakest form of security. So 73% of passwords are duplicates, according to a Microsoft report, and 80% of breaches involve passwords, according to a Verizon data breach report. Passwords reduce productivity, entering passwords every 10 to 15 minutes as you're logged out, which leads to a poor user experience. Having to change your password every 60, 90 days, whatever it may be, it's not a pleasant experience. I used to have to do that every 90 days, and it leads to password fatigue. Adding on simply a number or symbol at the end, it's not security. Every password reset, it's quite expensive, $70 every password reset. When you have to call the IT support team, you're wasting valuable IT support time and resources, and so forth. And I thought just to set the scene, because I know Matt's going to go through recommended retail prices later on. 60% of individuals are willing to pay $50 to $60 premium for passwordless technologies, which just remember that number, because we'll bring up our pricing later on. So now time to focus on the nice stuff, the good stuff, identity as a service. So it's our cloud identity and access management solution. Important to note, what I'm about to say can be translated in the cloud, on-premise, or a virtual appliance. So our solution can be deployed in all three of those different form factors, or can be a hybrid. So you can have a on-premise and a cloud both functioning at the same time. So our identity portfolio as a whole, it's quite, it's more than just authentication. We're definitely an identity and access management player, and where that's from authenticating into, with your multi-factor authentication, with your authenticators, authorizing access, so your single sign-on cloud apps, single SaaS applications, VPN, SCADA systems, and so forth. Transact upon your authorization, so that is extending the use case past just simple multi-factor authentication. So that's email file encryption, document sign-in, so all PKI use cases, and the management of the user and the authentication over the digital lifecycle. We have the broadest range of authenticators on the marketplace, have SDKs, APIs, you name it. So if we don't support your integration out of the box and it doesn't support an industry-wide standard, we'll still be able to integrate it with our APIs and SDKs. And as I mentioned, flexible deployment models, on-premise, cloud, virtual appliance. Cloud is definitely the way to go though, and you'll see that below with our MSP pricing. So I mentioned use cases and user groups. So with our identity and access management portfolio, we cater knowledge workers, so we consider them the core enterprise. So these knowledge workers are your 9 to 5 office employees. They require VPN access. They require access into privy databases, highly sensitive information. So they most likely, they will need a higher assurance authenticator. Your frontline workers, they're more of your expendable workforce. They don't need access to the same highly sensitive information as your knowledge workers do. So they can be employee portals, HR. Prime example I like to use is contractors coming in, McDonald's, retail, they don't need the same level of information. So we can give them a cheaper, often free alternative authenticator that's disposable and easy to get rid of. And then we can also cover extended users as well. So we can do external users in a B2C environment. I mentioned that we have an unrivaled number of supported authenticators and use cases. This is what we call our authentication suite. Internally, we like to call it our rainbow authenticators. As you can see, it covers a broad spectrum of authenticators from grid cards, which were the first form of authenticators past passwords, mobile soft tokens, as we all know, and I'm sure, I'm hoping we all use, mobile smart credentials, hardware tokens, the works, and so forth. So I want to bring attention to this slide at a high level. So this is our trusted identity platform, as we call it. So what we saw on the previous slide was our authenticator suite, which is a strong value proposition. However, as we mentioned, we're not just a MFA provider, we're an identity and access management solution. So we firmly believe that in order to transact upon something, so do a authentication, we need to trust that user in the digital space first. So it's fine in the physical space, we go to a club, we go buy alcohol, we meet someone, we get introduced to someone. If we need to prove our identity, we show our driver's license, our passport, whatever it may be. We show a form of physical identity. And that's great. We check the identity, we check it's a valid document, we check the person, they're who they say they are in the photo, so the photo matches up, the document hasn't expired, and so forth. But how do we do that in the digital world? So we do that via something called mobile ID proofing, and we're establishing that trust. So that establishing trust, we take a picture of the ID document like we would in the real world. We then take a picture of the user, compare it against the photo on the ID document, and in real time, we do a document verification. So in real time, once they've passed that authentication result, they're then given a digital identity to transact upon, which gives them secure access to perform secure transactions and sign transactions as they please. But where we go a step further is maintaining trust. So maintaining trust is what we refer to the journey to continuous authentication. So we're built upon what's called a zero trust framework, which is the whole theme of today's webinar. And that zero trust, what we're basically meaning is trust is not explicitly given, it's earned. So it's not a right, you have to earn it. So every single person, device, user, thing that comes into an organization, they're given zero trust. As you authenticate in and you prove who you say you are, we'll grant you a little bit of trust. We'll let go of the rope a little bit. We'll give you a little bit of movement. However, as soon as that's breached, we'll pull that rope straight back in and make you authenticate again. Prime example of that is I'm right now in Perth, but I'm based in Melbourne. So just say yesterday I logged in from Melbourne, 9 a.m. in the morning. 9:30 in the morning, I logged in from Perth. Sure, it's possible for VPN. I've never done it before. Let's step up that authentication, make sure Nathan's who he says he is. He's not coming from a legal device or legal location. Once I prove that, we'll then log us in and we'll remember that data for next time. So next time we won't get in the way. So now we'll move into passwordless. So passwordless is our easy anytime secure access to applications, data and systems for a more secure and productive workforce. And when we say passwordless, we want to take the F out of authentication. So that's our factors, friction, and frustration. And I'll show you how we're going to do that. In the marketplace at the moment, there's multiple definitions of passwordless, and we often hear that password is a bit of a buzzword in the marketplace. So there's multiple ways we can do passwordless. The first way is mobile push authentication. So a user would log in for the first time, they'll do their push authentication, they're logged in, great, that's fine. However, all we're doing for next time is caching that password in the background. So we're not removing the need for passwords, we're just making it a more convenient form factor. In other words, those 30, 60, 90-day password policies, they all still exist. And as well as that, you still need to authenticate into all of your applications once you log into your device. FIDO authentication, becoming massive. The YubiKeys are the predominant users of FIDO authentication. Great little tools. They're unbranded. You lose it, no worries. You don't really know who it's from. However, the biggest problem with FIDO authentication, everyone leaves them plugged into their laptop. So I could just walk up to, a lot of laptops I've seen in meetings and people walk away. I can just authenticate in because it's not biometric based. There is biometric based FIDO coming out. However, no one's using it at the moment. And then credential based authentication. So credential based authentication is what we want to put our time and focus in. It's based on certificates, so it's high assurance and it's high productivity. So how does a passwordless credential-based authentication look and work? So a user will come into proximity. So firstly, they're going to have a digital identity, a certificate embedded on their mobile device. Once they have done that, they'll then basically have a smart card on their phone. So the user will come into Bluetooth proximity range of their workstation, their laptop, whatever it may be. It has to be a Windows or Mac OS device. Once they have come into proximity of that, it auto connects to that device and it will then prompt them on their mobile device, do you want to authenticate to this machine? You say yes, and then you're prompted for a biometric PIN release, Face ID, Touch ID, a fallback of PIN if you do not have one of those two Face ID or Touch IDs readily available, and will authenticate you into your machine. Also extend that out into secure shell sessions, remote desktop sessions, and logs you into all your SaaS applications at the same time. So it's high assurance because it's PKI based, which means it is non-repudiation. It will stand up in a court of law. Important to note at the moment, because it does leverage upon a PKI solution, it works on all Entrust CAs and a Microsoft CA at this present time. I've just got a little video of showing a marketing video of how Passwordless works. So there we go. We'll authenticate in with our face recognition. We can extend it to touchless access into organizations, into buildings. We have one device for all logins. We want to log into our work computer. We'll scan our thumb to confirm. Great. Laptop workstation logs in or working straight into your email, straight into your SaaS applications. No more authentication. User walks away from their device, locks the machine. Great for authenticating, great for enforcing that user policy there. Focusing a little bit more on our managed service provider section. So our managed service provider is a service provider interface available for all partners and MSPs. It's multi-tenanted and multi-tiered. So partners, you can create and manage your own subtenants. Great trial capabilities. So before you onboard someone as a production user, you can onboard them as a trial. So they get 30 days to use the software with 30 users. They have no other limitations apart from that. After 30 days, the instance will just become locked. You don't need to do any manual stop to make sure it locks. It's a manual activation into production because we don't want to charge you for a trial that may or may not go to production. So pricing discounts, as you onboard more users, your price and discount, your buy price dramatically drops, which we'll see later on. Complete white labeling to your organization. So themes, email contents can be branded. Most importantly, all of your tenant and child accounts, it's all managed by you, completely independent of Entrust. You have full control. The only thing we see from our end, Entrust end, is we see the number of users that each instance has. That's all. We don't see the users inside it. So it's all completely encrypted, completely yours. We have no visibility at all over it. So why would you partner with Entrust? Add an easy to manage low risk recurring revenue stream. It's all billed monthly in arrears. You can work out your, having said that, you can buy it termed licensing as well. But yeah, it's easy to manage. As I mentioned, it's partner friendly because we've got a partner dashboard. Lead generation will assist you with that. We'll assist Blue Chip with that as well. We have world-class technical support. You get silver support included in all MSP licenses. And most importantly, you get access to what we call Partner Central. So that Partner Central has sales kits to help you sell, marketing collateral to help you go to market, of course, help you spread the word of our product. We have case studies readily available, and we can provide training as well. And as I mentioned, 25 plus years of digital identity expertise, it's a no-brainer. So moving into a couple of case studies. First one being the NHS. I'm sure we're all aware of it, especially over the last 12 months. If we weren't aware of the NHS, we would have been with COVID. Basically, during NHS has always been back and forth wanting to go down our passwordless solution. They never did. It was just one of those things. And then March last year, they reached out to us during the height of COVID and said, we need passwordless right now. We need this solution. So we set up a POC that I think took 2 to 3 weeks. And then with 2 weeks after that, they're production up and running. They have 100% adoption rate across the NHS now. They changed it a little bit. So you can, our passwordless solution is flexible. The way they're doing it is their device, they'll come into proximity of a terminal server. So auto connect still. However, instead of confirming the authentication on their mobile device, they confirm it on the workstation because they've got the PPE. They can't take the PPE to take out their mobile device. So they would enter in a PIN onto their workstation login. So it removes the password, but still that high assurance, because as soon as they walk away, it will log them out. Another case study is a law firm. They didn't want to share their name, but just wanted to share that, we can do the big NHS, great, easy to do. We can also do the smaller use cases as well. So this law firm has 100+ employees. They had a password-only solution, and they wanted to implement MFA, so they did that. Their requirements that they had sensitive data, so they needed a robust security solution. They needed to be user-friendly because not all their staff were tech-savvy. Lawyers, they're not all going to be tech-savvy. Of course, it's not what they do day in, day out. And they needed something simple to use, and they wanted to move away from, they didn't want a hardware token. They wanted it to be all on a mobile device. So they implemented a mobile soft token. So the feedback was it was easy to manage, easy to use, the end users were happy, and that's who you need to get on board, your end users at the end of the day. And the productivity was down because password resets went down because we have self-service modules for password resets, which are included in your licenses. I'll go through a live demo now. Give me just a moment to set up. So this is what I'm just going to bring up my Air server so you can see my mobile phone and see what I'm doing. So this is what the Identity as a Service login portal looks like. Okay, beautiful. Okay, so this is what the Identity as a Service login portal looks like. So we'll go to login, enter in our user ID, and I've set it up for push authentication. So you can see the push has come through. I have a pending action. Great, we'll open it up. Sorry for my bad internet at the moment. And there we go, Face ID to prove who I say I am. You've requested to authenticate to this service. Do you want to authenticate? Confirm it. Is it a suspicious activity, or do you want to cancel it? So we'll confirm that, and you'll see authentication straight in. So this is our admin dashboard. So this admin dashboard is obviously what all admins see, whether they are a MSP or an end user instance. Excuse me. On this dashboard, you can see the number of users that you've got, how many entitlements you've got. So I've got 30 entitlements, but only 13 users are active. I'll only get billed for 13 users, not 30. Important to note. I have 10 applications, one is inactive at the moment, how many directories I've got, and gateways. I'll explain gateways in a little bit. And then we've got audit logs at the bottom. So great, my colleague Bruce in Singapore logged in to the portal today actually, 8 minutes ago. So that's good to see that it is showing. And we've got management logs as well. So any changes to any of the management logs to anything on the portal will come up here. So if a user changes an authenticator, it'll come up here. If you change a setting, it'll come up here and who did it. So for a service provider, the only difference from an admin dashboard, you'd have a service provider tab on the left-hand side. So click on tenants. And as you can see here, this is the tenant dashboard. All of my tenants are here. If I wanted to check my tenants, usage details. So the first one, they've only got one inactive user, so you wouldn't be charged for that user. So the way it works on peak active user entitlements. So that if you don't have any active users, you're not going to get invoiced, of course. This one as well, go through it. And they've got 2 inactive and they're locked anyway. You can up the entitlements by opening up the entitlements, changing from trial to production. I can't do that because I've got a trial instance of this. Change the status of the contract, enter in your customer information and so forth. and what type of bundle they need. I want to onboard a new tenant. How do I do that? Click on the plus button. As simple as filling out the information here. All right, so email ID, user ID. So this is the information of the first super admin. So they have access to everything. You can do this multiple ways. If a user wants to be, if you want as an MSP, if you're going to be providing this as a managed service, you can make the first details your admin details, or you can make them the end user details. So company names is, let's go Blue Chip Demo, country, where are we? Australia. So account URL. So bluechipwebinar.us.trustedauth.com. So the .us, I'm on .us, everyone will be on .us within your instance. We'll go ahead and click next. Production, the contract mode. So if you want to give them a trial, keep it on trial. There is a production mode as well. Again, I don't have access to that. Contract number, customer ID, entitlement ID, all yours. No idea. We have no visibility over all of that. That is all for your internal reference. You know, you can change the number of quantity if you go in production and what bundle you want to give them. Predominantly just the plus bundle is where we would go. Go ahead, click next and click add. So with me talking and explaining everything, that took me what, 90 seconds to fill out that form. Once you click add, probably takes another 60 seconds to create the instance. So it's creating that instance in the background. And we will see an email shortly once it does add. There we go. So the tenant is created now. And I can go ahead and click on the link and it will open up a new instance for that tenant. And as you can see, welcome to Entrust Identity as a Service. Hello, Nathan Curcio. This is your super admin details, and so forth. So I've created a instance now. So let's now log in. So the details were user ID was admin. And first time login will be a OTP login. And this is via SMS. 15673760. First time you log in, there's terms of service that you need to agree to. Once you agree to that, no other users will be prompted for it. So now, as you can see, dashboard exactly the same. Only difference, no service provider tab. So first thing I'd recommend doing is coming into the user and adding a authentication for the user, for the first admin. So to do that, go into authenticators, add a soft token, and now that user will be sent a soft token. Every user from here on out will be sent a soft token login for the first time login. And you can see, hello, Nathan Curcio. Please ensure you've downloaded the application. Click here for your soft token. You click there, and eventually, there we go. Do we want to open up in the identity app? Yes, I do. Identity name, save it, next. And you need to enter a PIN. So each identity has its own PIN. Do you want to enable biometrics for it? Yes, great. There I have it. Now, how do we actually make sure we're using that soft token? Because if I log in again, it will still use that SMS OTP. So what we do is we come at the resources and resource rules. And the resource rules are per application or per use case. So as you can see, I've got admin portal and user portal. So we want to enable the admin portal. And I'll show more on the resource rules later on. what groups you want to apply it to. I don't have any groups, so we'll just apply it to all admins. Your risk factor. So this is that continuous authentication I mentioned previously. It's all drag and drop, all weighted out of 100. I won't do that. Low risk, so you can categorize what your low risk threshold will be. So my low risk is 0 to 29%. Excuse me. I want to skip a password, and I want soft token push first, software token second, and one-time password as my fallback option. Great, submit. If I were to log out now, so log in again, admin. Eventually, when it goes across the world and comes through to my poor internet connection, I don't, because I've got the application open, it didn't send me a transaction. There we go. And confirm. So that's from that perspective. So that's onboarding a user. So we'll go back to my instance here, and we'll go to show you your directory servers. But first we'll do gateways. So a gateway, as I mentioned previously, it is a hardened virtual appliance that sits on your organization's premises. And that appliance filters all your network traffic from your on-premise. So that's your Radius, your Active Directory sync, your password reset, and all legacy on-premise applications. So we don't expose Radius to the internet. We don't expose your AD to the internet. It goes via our gateway and communicates via port 443. It is hardened to CIS standards. And you can have as many gateways as you want. So you can see my gateway is up and running, which means I should have a directory up and running. So here's my directory. To add a directory, just come forward and click the plus button. I'll just open up my directory for this use case. And it's as simple as giving your directory a name, entering your username. It has to be in FQDN format or in UPN format, as you can see. Entering your password, add your directory servers, can be SSL or just HTTP. I've just done HTTP because it's on a test infrastructure. For password reset, you do require SSL. Good to know. You put your root to name, naming context, your search bases, your group filters. So no different to what I'm sure you've seen across other use cases. Synchronization agents, that's your gateway, your cluster. And then go forth and click save. Now, once you've done that, and you've now got a gateway up and running. This is what a end user dashboard will look like. So when they log in, they'll come up to this screen, and this is their single sign-on portal. So I've got AWS, Office 365, and Salesforce enabled. Great. Let's go to AWS, and it will single sign on me across. Hopefully it is working. I did test it earlier. And there we go, authenticates in. Same thing for Office 365 if I want to do that. Office 365, I set up different rules that require a password to log into Office 365 and to re-authenticate. So there we go, there's the action, great, confirm, login. So these are just all in those resource rules that I mentioned. So all the resource rules that enable all of that. Matt, is there anything else you'd like me to show the webinar to everyone, the attendees?
No, that's great. So thanks very much, Dale. I mean, Nathan, for presenting on that.
Not a problem.
If anyone has any questions, please post them in the chat. We'll get to them and answer them at the end. I'm sure there's heaps of questions that people have.